There seems to be a tendency to take things a little bit too seriously when it comes to reality. There seems to be a tendency to take things a little bit too seriously when it comes to reality. And this is, of course, very natural, very normal, simply because the only thing that we experience is reality, or that which we experience is reality. We take our own experience of reality seriously, of course, because it's the only thing that we experience. It's the only channel we have, that's the only thing that we do experience through the consciousness and through the experience of consciousness itself, experiencing that which we experience through consciousness. So the only thing that we experience is reality, which means that which is produced for us by the machinery that lies inside and hidden deep within, encoded within, you could say, the human program. The machine that produces the reality that we experience is inside the human program. And this is so easy to forget, so easy to overlook. The very fact that we're living inside a machine, that there is a certain mechanical process, there is a certain process, there is a certain system to how we produce reality and to how we relate to it. There's a reason why we relate to reality in the way that we do, simply because it is produced for us in the way that it is produced for us. And the reason why it's so easy to forget this or to overlook this is, of course, or to become ignorant of this fact, it's of course because the experience of reality is a total experience. The reality is everything that we perceive. As Wittgenstein says, reality is everything that occurs, right? It's everything that takes place. So everything that we perceive is the world, is reality, and that is a total experience. And it fills our channel, it fills our monitor, so to speak. So that's why we take it so seriously, and that's why we forget that what we are relating to, that which we take so seriously, is actually produced by a machinery that is not made by our own volition. It's just reality as it is produced for us, and we are that which relates to this. We are that which tries to modify it, and we are that which tries to relate to that which is produced in an appropriate way. In the experience in itself, perception, the perception and the experience of reality is very persuasive, because that's all we experience. We have only one channel. We have only one channel in our television, and that channel is called reality. And that reality is produced, or it is given manifestation within consciousness, because, of course, consciousness is that which makes it possible for our brain to produce reality. So in many ways you could say that we are that which experiences consciousness, experience reality. We are that which experiences the consciousness that experiences reality. We are that which experiences consciousness as it experiences reality, as it appears to us. Ha ha ha. So we are living in the human program, and the human brain, the human program, is producing a reality for us. And this is so easy to forget. And it is easy to forget simply because of the totality of the experience in itself. The fullness of the experience in itself. The experience of reality is very persuasive because we experience only consciousness. We are that which experiences consciousness, experience reality. This is just how it is. This is why it's very a taboo. The topic is very taboo when it comes to God, right? Because if we talk from a scientific point of view, from a neuroscientific point of view, you could say that, well, God is a part of that which is produced by the human program, right? Or at least I can say that from my own philosophy. We don't have to agree on that. It's very easy to not see that whatever we believe in is just a part of that which is produced and delivered to us by the human program, although it is co-created by ourselves and the human program. It's very easy to forget this, and it's very easy to not see that whatever we believe in is just a part of that which is produced for us, and it's a part of that which we ourselves constitute and create. And I'm just very happy if people don't agree with me, if they really truly disagree and say that, hello, Christian, it's outrageous to say something like that, that God is just a part of that which is produced by the human program. That's outrageous to say, because that actually means that God doesn't exist. But then I would say, no, it doesn't have to mean that. It doesn't have to mean that at all. It just means that the God that we perceive or conceive or project, that we interpret our way to, like in a jungle, we interpret our way through the jungle until we arrive at the projection of God that we have made ourselves through culture and, of course, our practice with thought and language. But I would like to say that because it points to the real God, it points to Father God, it points to the ultimate absolute. Because if we understand that even God is a part of that which is produced by our own brain, then we will have insight, right? We will understand ourselves. We will understand something about the human program. We will understand something about reality. And we will all even understand why it is so that we take this reality and our beliefs and conceptions about it a little bit too seriously at times, because after all, it is produced by ourselves. It is produced by the human program. And the human program is, as I've said before, the interaction between the brain and the nervous system. And the nervous system is a huge canvas to decipher. The nervous system is everything that exists, so to speak, because the subtlety and the sensitivity of the totality of the nervous system is so huge. Even the stomach is a part of the nervous system. In some sense you could say that the whole body is a part of the nervous system. That is actually correct to say. Everything that contributes to our own perception and experience is actually in some sense a part of the nervous system, the totality of the nervous system, you could say. And that is why we are all the time receiving all that we experience, and also that's why we are producing and projecting back into reality from that which we experience and perceive. So the world as we perceive it is, in a sense, produced by our own brain's ability to reproduce the world as we see it, because our brain is reproducing the world. The world is a reproduction, We are receiving the clay and our brain is making the sculpture. We are receiving the signals that is the world in its quantum field form, and our brain is creating and reproducing the world that we experience in our own consciousness, you could say. Everything in this world is produced, but we think that we are responsible for that which is produced. The reality in the world that is produced by the human program is the presentation of the world as we experience it, and we think that we are responsible for this. We think that we are responsible for the production of that which is produced. But actually, it is the human program itself that is responsible for that which is produced. We are just responsible for how we relate to it and modify it. This is a key point. This is a key point to human suffering. This is a key point to paranoia and stress and human suffering and narcissism too. Because we think that we are responsible for the production of reality as we perceive it. But we're actually not, because the brain is producing reality as we perceive it. But we are responsible for how we interpret. The interpretation machine, as I've talked about so many times, is hardwired into us. It's a deep core part of our reptile brain system. The interpretation machine is a part of the reptile brain. It goes back millions of years, not only 100,000 of years. It goes back millions of years, the interpretation machine, because we cannot survive without the interpretation machine inside the brain. We cannot survive without the interpretation machine inside the brain. So that's why we need it, and it's really a part of the reptile brain. Even crocodiles have an interpretation machine, Every animal alive today as a part of a species has an interpretation machine within their own brain. Perhaps not a mosquito. The mosquito may not have an interpretation machine. They have only some kind of instinct within the consciousness that is constituted by the electromagnetic energy in their biofield, in their particle field, so to speak. But the reason why we take reality too seriously, in a way, is very often because of the fact that we think that we are responsible for the production of it. But the brain, the human program, is responsible for the production of it. But we are responsible for how we relate to this production. We are responsible for how we relate to this production. We are responsible for how we interpret it, but mostly the precise word is how we relate, how we connect to it, how we attach to it, how we relate to it, with what kind of perspective do we relate to the world as it is produced by our own human program. That is the key question. That is the ultimate ground of human suffering, and that is where a lot of our problems stem from. It comes from exactly this point, from how we relate to the production of the world as it is produced by the human program inside our mind-brain system. This is precise talking. This is a teaching. And it has implications for psychology, psychiatry, for neuroscience, for philosophy, for everyday life, for everything. It's really, really, really important. I've stressed the importance of understanding the human program for 1,000,000 years, and I would like to repeat it today because it's really, truly, actually very important. Of course, we have to understand ourselves. So even when I say that even God is a part of that which the human program produces, that doesn't mean that that does not reduce the relevance or the importance or even the presence of God, because God is a part of the ultimate absolute, or he stands on or exists within the ultimate absolute, that which is prior to the human program, that which is before consciousness, that which is before perception, that which is prior to consciousness itself. So everything that we perceive is a part of that which is produced by our own human program. So we are living in our own reality, in a sense. We are all living in our own virtual reality, and that virtual reality is the reality that we perceive and experience. We are creating our own reality, or the human program is creating that which we experience as reality within consciousness. But even if it is not true that we are creating our own reality, even if it was true that no, in fact, the world is completely as it is. The world is completely as we experience it, and we are the perception of this cartoon, so to speak. We are that which experiences the world as it is. It's not any different than what it seems to be. It is completely just as we experience it. And we have a completely precise perception apparatus to perceive this objective reality with. We are living in accordance with that which reality is in its truest form, right? Maybe that could be so, which means that we're living in a cartoon, right? We're living in a cartoon. We're a part of a cartoon. Everything's sketched out, everything's written out, everything's clear. Maybe, of course, if you know my work or listen to me, you will know that I don't believe that. I think that the human program is producing the reality or the cartoon. The human program is producing the cartoon as we see it through the ability and the faculties of the human program itself. Never mind. But, so, I mean, and please know that it's not about being right. And also, it's not about being wrong, but it's about to give our own opinion, right? It's about giving our knowledge into the world, presenting the fruit to the table. You know, we have to give our dish to the restaurant. The restaurant is the world and the world population, and our dish is the knowledge that we have produced, our insights. We have to serve the world by serving insight and knowledge to the world population and to the world in itself. And we do that not by insisting that we are right. Well, of course we can do that, and we can know in our heart that, yes, sure, I'm right. I know that I'm right. But even if I know that I'm right, it's also, of course, supremely possible that I'm wrong. Who knows? Or at least wrong in a way that I cannot see myself. And this goes for everyone. So we shouldn't be too afraid of knowledge. We shouldn't be too afraid of disagreement. Criticism and disagreement is very, very important. True dialogue is very, very important. But we take things too seriously. We take them personally. We take them with the sensitivity of the psychological self, of the ego, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then we lose the true perspective. And then we lose the real perspective, you know. Then we lose the ability to see all the different paradigms that are available to us, all the different paradigms that actually constitute the intellectual arena in our mind-brain system, the menu in the restaurant of this world. The menu in this restaurant, which is the world, is like a solar system of paradigms, you know. All the different paradigms that we live with, all the different religions, ideologies, philosophies, views, perspectives, and so forth, narratives, stories, cartoons, language games, ideologies, narratives, and paradigms. All the different paradigms that exist are swirling around in a solar system, so to speak. All the paradigms are like stars and planets circling around in a solar system. And when we see that, when we see that menu, when we see that totality of the various paradigms, when we see that totality of all the various paradigms that we can choose from, or let's say that we can allow to nourish us or and to teach us, you know, then all the paradigms can become helpful to us, and we can modify and perfect the paradigms that we really truly believe in. But we have to understand that there is a huge variety of paradigms, and we need to be flexible and tolerant among different paradigms, of course. Just as a solar system is that there's no friction, there's no judgment in a solar system. You know, each planet, each star is allowed to be whatever they are. You know, they follow their own ellipses. They go in circle in the way that they do. There's no judgment there. It's only gravity and matter that matters. And so it should be in reality as well with us in the intellectual world, you know. The different solar systems that contain all the paradigms of this world should be allowed to exist as they are. And we should also be allowed to perfect and to modify and to change the paradigms as we see fit, so that all the other paradigms can enrich themselves from it, so that the other paradigms can receive valuable knowledge and input and insight and feedback from newly developed paradigms or new additions to the paradigms in which we live. So we need to see all the different paradigms as a big totality, and we need to find which paradigms or which paradigm is it that we have to develop in order to become truly and really professional and clear-sighted, because clear sight and true insight and professionalism is of course that which we are after. And this we can see when we see ourselves, completely, when we have a full understanding of ourselves, so to speak, when we see the mechanics that lies at the core of the production machine, so to speak, when we see ourselves. And when we do this, we can also see that which I've been speaking about for so many years, that which is not produced. When we see that which is produced, and when we see how that which is produced, when we see exactly how the things that are produced is produced, then we also get a very clear notion about that which is not produced, because that which is not produced is also always here, present, as the primary space, the thing that we cannot see, but which always is here, the space, the underlying invisible space that gives the possibility for spaciousness to occur and develop as spaciousness in space. So the space that we see, the space of the universe, the space of the world as we see it and experience it, the world of space, the space that contains the world, the space that is the world, the space of the universe, the space that we see, that is a space that we see simply because there is a primary space underneath it, or there is a primary space that allows this secondary space, which is spaciousness, visible spaciousness, to occur. Well, it actually is not spaciousness, actually it's just matter that is flowing out in the primary space, but we perceive it as spaciousness. But it actually, of course, it's physical in some sense, because this whole world is physical. Everything is physical. We experience it as psychological and spiritual and all of this, but we actually live in a physical universe. So we live in a physical universe, and the space that we see is a result of the fact that there is something that gives this space the possibility to exist as spaciousness, which means that which we see as space. It's the primary space, because I've explained that space is actually the primary space and the secondary space. The primary space is the space that gives possibility for space to occur as spaciousness. Is the ultimate zero, is the ultimate absolute, which gives possibility for particles and space itself to exist in spaciousness. Without nothingness, without the complete presence of the nothingness, and even of the anti-nothingness, the anti-nothingness. It's not only antimatter that is important. It's not only antimatter or anti. It's not only antimatter that matters. It's also anti-space, anti-nothingness. Something that is so completely non-existent that it is the first original ground, the primary ground that space exists within, so to speak. The only thing in this world that is not produced is the ultimate absolute, the nothingness that comes prior to the development of the universe. The Big Bang cannot exist if there is no nothingness to give space for that Big Bang. If Big Bang doesn't have a space to occur in, it's not possible with a Big Bang. And the space in which the Big Bang occurs is also the secondary space. The primary space is that which gives Big Bang the space that it needs to unfold itself. And it's also the space that makes it possible for the Big Bang to unfold within or as spaciousness, as particle physics, as energy. The Big Bang cannot be an unfolding of nature as particles and energy and fire and thunder, that which the Big Bang is. The unfolding of the universe, even as it is today, the unfolding of the universe cannot happen, cannot occur, if there is no spaciousness that allows such a thing to occur. And that which allows that spaciousness is the primary space. The Big Bang cannot occur. Simply it cannot happen, it cannot occur, it cannot take place if it didn't have a primary space that would allow for spaciousness to occur. The primary space is the guarantee of the spaciousness. The primary space, the underlying nothingness, is that which gives spaciousness the possibility to occur as spaciousness, and thus provide the platform or the arena or the possibility for the Big Bang. And all the different paradigms that is swirling around our own mind-brain system, just as in a solar system, they are planets and stars within the solar system, are different paradigms, the different narratives, the different language games, the different conceptions, the different concepts, the different conceptualizations, the different paradigms. They are swirling around in space, in our mental space, just same as a solar system. The set of paradigms that are available to us because we produce them ourselves and we experience and perceive the paradigms that are presented to us by others, they are swirling around in our field of possibility, the field of possibility. And these paradigms are same as planets and stars within a solar system. They're just swirling around in our mind-brain system, and we have the opportunity to engage with them and to fine-tune them, to perfect them, to modify them, to make them better or more appropriate or more relevant than what they are in their current edition or in their previous edition, but we can modify them. And when we see this, we get insight into that which is the self, that which we call the self, that which we experience as the self. We get insight into ourself, we get self-knowledge, And this is, of course, completely necessary because the self itself is also produced by that which is the human program. Everything is produced by the human program, The self as we experience it is produced by the human program, namely by synapses in the brain. It's a part of the electromagnetic neurocircuitry and the activity that takes place in the neurocircuitry within the electromagnetic interactions and activity in there. So the self is also produced by the human program. Everything is. Even the thing that I've been talking a lot about, Sat Chit Ananda especially, these things too are produced by the human program. It really is. It's a part of The mind-brain system is the underlying, let's say that there are 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 floors within the human brain. The first floor or the ground floor is Satchit Ananda, it's the the first primary self. It's the self that is not polluted by consciousness or by psychological activity. It's the free self, it's the freedom self. And we have that, but it is produced. It's just a part of that which is produced, and that is, of course, something that spiritual people don't want to recognize. They don't want to acknowledge that it's why does it exist? Well, why does that which we call Satchit Ananda exist? Well, because it is produced, and we experience and perceive that which is produced. It's a reality that occurs to us. We are able to perceive such a thing as our true self, as our bliss self, as the Satchit Ananda self, as the inner heart of Brahman, the inner heart of Brahman. We are able to experience that, also because we are co-creators. We are creating the things that we experience and perceive and conceive, We are making projections and concepts out of that which we co-create within the human program. Everything in this life is produced, and the reason why we take it too seriously at times is simply because that we think that we are responsible for the production of it. We think that we are responsible for the world as we perceive it. All of this is produced by the human program. Satchit Ananda, eternal bliss and Buddha nature, it's all produced by the human program. But it stands on the ultimate absolute. It all stands on the ultimate absolute. It stands on that which is not produced. That which is produced stands on that which is not produced. And that's how we can get balance and grounding to a certain platform when we open ourselves to real, true insight and to real, true professional knowledge, so to speak. Because we need to be professional. We don't have time anymore in our world to be amateurs. We don't have time for amateurs any longer, which means that we don't have time for anything of that which happens in the world today. Because today politics is, of course, controlled by amateurs, And there's a lot of amateurs in science as well. There's amateurs in philosophy and literature and blah, blah, blah. And of course, never mind, don't have to say things like that. But of course, in my mind, that's true. But we don't have time for that anymore. We need professional insight. We need someone who can cut the cake. We need analysis. We need self-insight. We need knowledge. And we cannot get knowledge. We cannot achieve true insight without the knowledge of the human program and what it is that the human program produces. Right? We cannot get true insight without knowledge of all the things that the human program produces for us into our reality. Right. Thank you. Amen.